Alrighty, so I am an AI consultant for two companies. One company is high six figures, the other company is mid seven figures. And I help them with strategy, with implementation, and ultimately saying no to tools and resources or even strategies that might not work in the AI era. So in this video, I'm going to show you how exactly to think like an AI consultant, what that looks like, what that means, and why right now it's super important to start leaning into AI consultants because really automation is slowly dying. And I mean, if you look at ChatGPT and what they're doing and what NAN's doing with their agent builder, automation is slowly dying. So it's going to pay a lot more to become an AI consultant, and you'll become more resourceful or more needed within the marketplace. So this presentation ultimately focuses on the lenses and the judgment rather than the tools and tutorials. If you're looking for a video like that, that is coming. That is not this video. This video, I believe, is more important because the lenses and the judgments, rather than kind of how we're going to really go about doing this, the kind of the macro level of things, I think is more important. So let's get into it. So number one, it's important to realize what AI is in business terms. A lot of this currently right now sounds a lot like fluff or this magic technology. And sure, there is some very cool use cases and very cool things AI is currently doing right now. But MIT just stated that 5% of AI is currently working in businesses. So majority of businesses utilizing these tools, developing systems are just not working. It's actually creating more noise, being more clunky, and ultimately just bogging down the entire internal team. So AI right now is kind of fundamentally a universal intern that can read, write, and make decisions with tolerable error rates. Because now, sure, it's like someone who just came into your team, but they're still making a lot of errors. Again, it's clunky. It's not that user-friendly just yet. All right. So rather than viewing it like a magical technology, treat it as a new factor of production that sits between traditional labor and software. That's where you are essentially going to be implemented. All right. So this reframing, and this is how I look at things, this reframing shifts from the conversation from hype, because right now it's like all this hype, all this, again, noise. There's so much noise right now on the internet about AI. You need to be able to look at it not through a lens of hype, but through capability economics. Like, what is really the use case that could really move the needle? And I'm not just going to come in here and put a bunch of stuff together, duct tape and glue. That's not going to work. Right? Super, super important. And we're going to talk about that in a bit here. So AI becomes a strategic resource you can deploy to augment human work. Much like how software, automated calculations or databases organize information. So labor, software, and AI, that trio is where we are going to start implementing ourselves. All right. So where value hides, it's super important. Being a consultant, just in general, and more so in AI right now, because not too many people know about it, where the value hides within the organization, the enterprise, or just the business. Okay, so there's three essential lenses that help you spot leverage in an organization. Master these three perspectives and you will find valuable work to propose. All right, so number one is friction, number two is latency, number three is blind spots. Friction, repeated handoffs, reformatting, retyping, or manual data transfers that waste time and introduce errors. I think everyone, all right, I think everyone has a little bit of this in their role. And so being able to spot, number one, this type of friction is super important. You can come in and you can say, okay, if that's taking an hour, maybe we can automate some of this. Maybe we can fix some of this through the use of AI, but I'm still going to need whoever to come in, have a human in the loop. All right. Latency is the second one. Delays that cost revenue, create waste, or prevent timely decisions from being made. So maybe this is a lack of data. Maybe this is lack of the proper data or not being able to really look at data to make decisions. Huge. And then blind spots. Blind spots, by all means, are massive because a lot of business owners are too bogged down in their business with their team, pushing the needle forward that they don't see their own blind spots. That's why mentorships, coaches, consultants are massive to have on your side because they really know. And again, this umbrella, the macro lens of everything really comes down to that consultant to be able to see the trends. Okay, so Decisions made without proper context, data, or visibility into critical information is massive. Massive, massive, massive. So these three spots are where the value hides in companies. All right. And again, I speak with both those companies very, very often. And a lot of the time, it's friction, latency, and blind spots that need solving. And it's your job as an AI consultant, again, to understand the problem, to understand what AI can do, if it's possible, if it's not possible, and ultimately come with an ethical framework, an ethical mindset, be the trusted advisor so that you can step into the business and say either this is a go or no go. Very, very important. So, 3 jobs of the AI consultant. What does the AI consultant really mean? What is it? So, most AI implementation failures stem from interface design and change management issues, not from model quality. All right, so your role extends far beyond choosing the right technology. Sure, understanding what model to use is very important, but the translation. So you want to convert business goals and human workflows into machine digestible tasks that AI can execute reliably. Super, super important. So if there's not a mesh between the task you're trying to automate and really if this model can understand it or quote unquote the AI can understand it, then we're going to have friction. We don't want friction. All right, then interface design. So create the touch points where people can interact with AI capability in ways that feel natural and trustworthy. Super, super important. And then also change management. All right, so make adoption safe and desirable by addressing fears, building trust, and creating new paths to status. We all have those individuals in the company, or people maybe in your current work that are against new technologies, that really don't embrace it because it becomes this identity crisis. Super important for you to come in and address those issues so that everyone, so the whole team can become part of this mission that we're on and kind of seek change and increase, everything. All right. So it's your job to make the employees safe. Yes, it's the founder's job. That's why the founder is hiring you, because it's your job now to step in and still realize that, yes, the humans are still very important. Okay. So impact, I want you to write this down. Impact happens at the intersection of these 3 disciplines. Technical excellence without adoption strategy yields nothing. Absolutely nothing. All right. So this is how I want you to lead. There's 3 trust conversations I need you to have. All right. Number 1 is risk. Okay, it's a super important, very important mindset to have. Risk. Again, a lot of people right now are coming and saying, I can change your entire business with AI. That's just not the case, all right? At least the data will show. So what I want you to do instead of leading with the positive is actually lead with the negative, okay? In the sense where you're just gonna basically go, what must never go wrong? So I want you to understand the negative rather than just leading again with this hype. So what must never go wrong? Identify the failure modes that would cause unacceptable harm or loss. So understand what must never happen so that we can obviously steer away from that. Then the economics, super important. If the economics of really anything don't math, if the math doesn't math, this is not gonna work. So economics, where does time or money currently leak? And that's why you need to understand their issues. That's why they're hiring you as the trusted AI consultant, because you are now understanding, it is your goal to understand where there's money currently being leaked and how you can use these solutions to fix it. So quantify the waste you're preventing or the value you're creating. All right, super important. That also helps you position your offer. Okay, so and then the identity, again, very important. Who do we become if this works? How will roles, status, and daily work shift for affected teams? Again, people are human. They have a soul. They have emotions. How do we come in and completely and have empathy towards what we're doing to the business, what we're doing potentially to their role, and how do we make them feel impactful as well? How do we make them still feel important? Very, very important. Okay, so define failure before features. This is what I want you to take away here. This principle builds credibility faster than any capability demonstration. All right, we are not here to we're not here to put duct tape and glue into a business. We are here to understand the nuance, and then, if appropriate, obviously provide the solution. So, guardrails as designs. This is what I kind of want you also thinking about. So, ethics isn't a disclaimer you add at the end. It's a feature you design for the beginning. This is massive. All right. So, I need you having ethical frameworks. You are the trusted advisor. They are paying you. What you have to realize too, and I've learned this over the years. Every business to the founder is like, it's their baby. All right. This is everything they devoted to: blood, sweat, and tears, and a ton of money. All right. So I need you to respect it. I need you to have this ethical lens where you're going to come in here as a trusted advisor and do your best, your absolute best to help. And if you're not, cut the ties and get out of there. All right. Which is totally fine as well. I need you to build systems that fail safely and visibly. All right. So essential guardrails include, refusals for Etoscope requests, human loop review for high tasks, high stakes decisions, data minimization to limit exposure. All right. So I need you to show basically the stakeholders, show the founders, show the team members exactly how the system fails safely. And I personally do this by automating the intake, automating the tasks. All right. Have a human in the loop to make sure that it actually is working. All right. Then have a decision gate that's basically just it approves it further, escalates it, refuses it. And then have an emergency stop. Okay. So something very quickly to either shut it off, keep it moving, or just pause it. Right. So again, you want to have these guardrails in any system. Very, very important. So that even if the human, sometimes we make mistakes. All right. We're not all perfect. If the human makes an error, then even the decision gate or the emergency stop is there before maybe gets to client facing, or it really just start really causing issues. Okay, but very important to have guardrails as design. So 5 patterns that repeat. Like I said, these businesses that I consult for are in 2 separate industries. Now, I think it would probably be better to be in just one industry and really knock that out, make that your lane. However, I know these industries quite well. So these are kind of the 5 patterns that repeat with businesses. Number 1 is compression, expansion, triage, memory, and forecast. So compression, we're almost done here. Follow along now. Compression, transform messy reality into structured records. All right, so turn conversations into summaries, documents into metadata, and chaos into searchable knowledge. I need to compress all of this. Now, if you go into a business, usually it's a ton of papers, a ton of just data lying around that is not being properly used. And that's why you need to compress all this stuff to make it make sense. Okay. And then we have expansion. So I want you to turn that data into communication that really moves action, that really moves the needle forward. Again, there's all this stuff lying around in a business. And I need you to generate reports, emails, proposals, or presentations from structured information that you're going to potentially develop, if it's not developed already. And then triage is another important, very important, obviously, on the front end of the business. So sort and route at scale, categorize incoming requests, prioritize tasks, or direct items to appropriate handlers automatically. Okay, and then memory of the business. So captured context once and reuse everywhere. All right, so build institutional knowledge that doesn't walk out the door or hide in email. Okay, and then finally, forecasting. Forecasting is very important as well. So propose the next best step. Suggest actions, predict needs, or recommend responses based on patterns and context. And so it's super important that you compress. It's super important that you expand. You work on triage, the memory aspect, and then that gives you the ability to forecast appropriately. As a consultant, you use a lot of data and you forecast appropriately. So, what work is AIable? All right, so again, a lot of this is fluff at the moment. I'm going to show you kind of the use cases right now that I see kind of across that you can kind of get into really quickly, make an impact, and help businesses out. So, high volume. Again, the tasks repeat frequently enough to justify automation investment. Okay, so if it's maybe, I know voice agents are very popular. Maybe it's just constant calls that you need to pick up, and you can actually automate that via a voice agent if it's kind of repetitive tasks that they're asking. Okay, so medium, number two, medium variability. So it's not identical every time. So it's not like you're going to answer 4 questions every time, but there's patterns exist, that can be learned through the AI. So maybe it's qualifying prospects if you're a business, right? So maybe there's obviously some nuance and some qualifying prospects, but a lot of time there's maybe 2 questions that you can kind of identify to say it's a go or no go. Number 3, clear definition of done. So this is kind of, again, black and gray, where there's obviously a success criteria that basically suggests, if it's completed or not. And then tolerable error with escalation. So mistakes that won't cause catastrophic harm, and then edge cases can route to humans. So again, there's kind of those guardrails where it won't cause catastrophic harm, but eventually you can potentially get a human in the loop. Okay. If 2 out of the 4 factors are true, I tend to, right, there's value worth exploring there. If 4 are all true, there's a product opportunity or whatever. I would say bring it to the owners, founders, stakeholders at that point. And then here we go into the constraint questions. All right, so use these questions on discovery calls, interval reviews, however, maybe bi-weekly meetings, whatever it is, whatever the cadence is currently with the people you're consulting with. This is kind of how you want to go about it. So basically, what becomes easy, cheap, or fast. So identify the positive transformation, quantify time or cost of savings where possible. What new risks appear. So name the failure modes, consider technical, operational, reputational dimensions. And then how wrong can we be and still create net value? That is a very important question to ask. Usually it's like, how right can we be and still create net value? It's like, how bad can this go, but we actually can still move the needle for the business? Very, very important ask. And then define your error budget. So that's obviously massive. So for instance, if you're running ads for a company, the error budget could be, let's spend 10,000, and within that 10,000, that data set, that data pool, we can analyze and make adjustments from there. So establish what accuracy threshold makes a solution worthwhile. Okay, super important. And then what is the smallest safe experiment that you can do as a business? All right, so design a limited test that proves or disproves core assumptions without major investment. A lot of these business owners like to walk into things and they think they're going to change the world, which I love the attitude. I love the attitude toward their goals, but you understand you can take smaller bats just to further identify or further really ideate if this bigger thing is going to work, right? So for instance, maybe it's getting a new location or having the software do this for our clients. So instead of doing that, you can just create like a small little beta test that will really suggest whether this thing's going to work or not. All right, very important because again, business owners, they flip-flop everywhere. All right. So the adoption loop. This is how I want you to go about it. Adoption journey is super, super important. With any technology, there's obviously an adoption curve. This is kind of how you want to go about it. So there is the learn. So provide quick guides and clear examples of how this could potentially look. So create safe sandboxes. That's super important. I need you to create a safe environment where, again, if it goes wrong, it does not matter. So create a sandbox and then low stakes tests, right? Very important as well. Trust. So share success metrics and visible guardrails. And then ultimately rely. So offer rollback plans and ongoing support. That is kind of, in a nutshell, how you need to kind of roll it out with these businesses. It's learn, try, trust, rely. Okay. And then obviously, design interventions appropriate to where users are in this loop. Don't ask people to rely on something they haven't yet learned or trust. So it's like, it's like training new team members. You can't just automatically think they're going to do what they're going to do, or they're going to do what you want them to do without SOPs and all this other stuff. They need to be trained. They need to be kind of handheld for a little bit so they understand the system, they understand the nuance, they understand kind of the A to Z of how this all looks and where they fit and how they're helping this whole ecosystem. We're almost done here. So the near future. So kind of, again, speaking about the macro environment, I think it's very important. Now, this is kind of the future, and this is why AI consulting is so important. So business language. So interfaces will speak in business outcomes rather than just like tokens or prompts or model parameters. So technical complexity will fade into the background. That's why AI automation, again, if you look at these major companies, what are they doing? They're making it super user friendly. Again, it's like what Apple did basically with the phone. Apple users love it. Apple users love every product because Steve Jobs believed that even the garbage man would be able to use this thing. All right, the grandma, your grandma, would be able to navigate through the phone and the computer. So business, all right, and specifically these models are going to be so user friendly that they're going to inherently understand a lot of this. Okay, so that's why you need to start being a consultant, right, where you can come in and understand these nuances, where you can basically paste these solutions into their business and make it really beneficial. So align incentives. So success metrics will align AI wins with how teams are actually measured and rewarded, not abstract efficiency gains. So really, like profit first, what are we trying to do here? What is it actually doing? Is this moving the needle or not? And then designer mindset. So identity. So the identity will shift from being a doer to being like a designer of workflows that combine human and machine capability to, establishing new apps, all this other great stuff. This isn't hype, it's direction. I need you to understand that. I'm not trying to hype you up here. I'm trying to provide some direction into what I'm currently seeing with the businesses that I consult with the people I work with, and what I am seeing out there right now. So position yourself and your clients to navigate this transition with curiosity rather than fear. Again, a lot of people are fearful. You'll talk to a ton of people, right? Kind of depending on their age, usually. Can't speak for everyone. But what I've seen, a lot of people are fearful of AI and what it's going to do to their careers. Okay, so very important. Now, lastly, apply this tomorrow. So you're kind of take home your homework. So knowledge without action remains theoretical. Okay, it does not mean anything. So pick one workflow that I kind of talked about, or anything that you want to do. Choose a single process you observe regularly, whether that's in currently your workplace, whether that's currently your business, or just something you want to do personally. So pick one workflow, name the friction or latency, use the value lenses I talked about. Where do hands off waste time? Where do delays cost point or opportunity? Define an error budget. So say I'm going to build a lot of this out and see if it works or not. Again, it could be $1, probably not $1, but it could be any amount of money you want to work with. How wrong can an automated solution be and still create net value is what you're trying to go for. And then propose a smallest safe experiment. So, don't go blowing the bank account on these tools and automations and these tokens. Just start very, very, very small. Propose the smallest safe experiment. Okay. So you now have the lenses and patterns and constraint questions that professional AI consultants use daily. The difference between knowing and doing is simply taking the first step, which I implore you to do today. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.